All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Marissa Town. I am the clinical director for children with diabetes. I am a nurse, a diabetes educator, and I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 32 years. And today I am very excited to have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Leonardo Riella and Rodolfo and Cátia Coelho. I hope I said that properly. So first I'll go ahead and I will introduce Dr. Riella. So Dr. Riella is an MD and PhD, and he is the Harold and Ellen Dancer Endowed Chair in Transplantation and Associate Professor of Medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School. He is the Director of Kidney Transplantation at MGH and a Senior Investigator at the Center for Transplantation Science. Dr. Riella's research is focused on understanding the mechanisms of immune regulation and how the diet may impact the immune system. Is focused on understanding the mechanisms of immune regulation and how the diet may impact the immune system and kidney disease. We lost your video for a second, but you're back. His lab uses multiple animal models of autoimmune kidney disease and transplantation, including kidney, heart, and lung murine, to better understand the immune response and investigate specific interventions to control the immune response and improve survival. Welcome, Dr. Riella.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here and to be talking to you about one of the things that I love, which is the immune system and the kidney. So I have a few slides. I thought about doing this in part an education about kidney disease and diabetes, and then I'll need Marissa for you to allow me to share the screen.
Oh yes. Let me go ahead. I'll make you co-host. And what I'll do is I'll introduce Cátia and Rodolfo when we get to your part of the presentation, if that's all right.
Perfect.
All right, let me know if that works, Dr. Riella.
It's still not. So post disable participant screen sharing.
Oh, here we go.
All right, here we go. Let me share some slides. Great. So the title of my very brief 5-minute discussion is diabetes, diet, and kidney disease. And I'll start with kidney 101. So what are the kidneys? So kidneys are these major organs located in our backs that are responsible for filtering the blood. And they're composed for about more than 1 million tiny little filters. And these filters are nothing more than delicate blood vessels. And you can see here on the right side, a little snapshot, if you would look in the microscope, of these delicate blood vessels. And once this blood is filtered here, it goes through these pipes, which are called tubules, that basically reabsorb anything that's good for you and excrete anything that's bad for you, forming ultimately the urine, which will contain all the products and wastes that our body wants to get rid of. If we dive into the tiny little filters that each kidney has about 1 million, you can see how delicate the structure here is on the right side. So it's formed by 3 different layers of cells, the endothelial cells, a basement membrane, and another layer of cells on the outside. And why am I showing you this? Because one of the major complications of diabetes in the long term is that it can lead to obstruction of these tiny little filters. And that's driven by an elevation in blood sugar. So the longer you have your blood sugars elevated, that tends to deposit and tends to inflame those tiny microvessels that we call, that form ultimately the tiny little filters of our kidney. And the kidney, just to remind you all, is a major organ that's going to clean up and all the waste and extra fluid that your body generates. And what's interesting is that our kidneys filter close to 180 liters of blood a day. So that's about 50 gallons of blood. But we only make, about 1 or 2 liters of urine. So the kidney is extremely efficient in filtering, reabsorbing the majority of things that are good for us, and then getting rid of the waste and some of the extra fluid. And the kidney has also other amazing things that it does. it really regulates the balance between minerals and other electrolytes in your blood. It also controls the blood pressure, so it's a major producer of hormones that help control blood pressure. It helps produce a hormone that stimulates your bone marrow to produce what we call red blood cells that are important for moving oxygen throughout your body. And they also are really important in producing an activated form of vitamin D to make and to keep your bones healthy. So the kidney has all these kind of amazing functions. Unfortunately, if your diabetes is not well controlled, and here I'm showing you on the x-axis here, the hemoglobin A1C that kind of translates to many of you that are very aware of how well your blood sugars are controlled. And on this red line here, we are showing one of the manifestations of kidney disease when you start leaking protein in the urine. So your tiny little kidney filters get damaged, and then suddenly protein that shouldn't be in your urine starts to appear in the urine. And as you can see, the more uncontrolled your blood sugars are, so the higher your elevated blood sugars throughout the days, the more you start seeing damage into the kidney. And one of the first ways that we manifest the kidney disease can be by the identification of urine for the protein in the urine. So you're measuring protein in the urine. So elevated blood sugars can cause damage to the tiny little blood vessels that form the kidney filters, and it can also cause inflammation. And it's the combination of those two things that ended up leading to kidney disease. And now I want to kind of connect what we've learned about the kidney disease with the immune system. And I'll give you just also a one-on-one on the immune system. So the immune system is one of the organs of our body that's responsible for protecting us against any potential threats. That may include bacteria, may include virus, may include fungi, and so forth. So they're really the protectors. They are the army that defend us against potential threats. And the immune system had different ways of trying to protect our body, and it can, send signals, which sometimes lead to inflammation when something is not going right. It sends the signal that causes inflammation, and they also activate cells that can cause damage to tissues, such as the kidney. What is interesting about the immune system is that even though our immune system is inside your body, anything that kind of would get exposed from the outside can also affect our immune system. So we know about infections such as COVID that can, cause an exaggerated response of your immune system, but also there's more and more data suggesting that the diet, the things that we eat on a day-to-day, can have a major impact in the immune system. And I'll show you just a little bit of data into that because it kind of connects a lot of things that we have learned in the past 20, 30 years. And to give you a framework to why the diet has become such an important part as we think about our health is that in the past 30, 40 years, we can see there has been a spike in many forms of autoimmune diseases, including diabetes, but also Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, asthma. And unfortunately, if we look just at the genes, we cannot mutate our genes in that quick period of time. So this is not some genetic mutation that led to this much higher rate of autoimmune diseases. So what had changed since the 1980s going forward has been the lifestyle and the diet that we eat. And of course, the United States is in part responsible for more fast food, more industrialized food that have a low cost, but unfortunately is associated with a significant amount of inflammation. So the foods have been shown to be associated with much more inflammation and much more immune activation. And therefore, the big hypothesis behind this spike in autoimmune disease is that the diets and the lifestyle that have changed in the past 30 years is driving this increased rate of these autoimmune diseases. And if we kind of combine now the diet and the immune system, what we've learned is that in order to keep your immune system more regulated, the diet plays this crucial role in communicating with your immune system directly and also with the bacteria in your gut, in addition to your genes, to make sure that your kidneys stay healthy. And we know the healthier foods are usually foods that are more plant-based, they're fiber-rich, They have a low glycemic index, so they cause less of a fluctuation in your blood sugars. And these diets can reduce the inflammation and also enhance the microbiota. So it causes the bacteria in our gut to be healthier. And this is in the long term is really impactful in terms of keeping the immune system in check. And I'll show you just one study that we have conducted, and there are many other investigators that have been looking into diet interventions. And these are kids that had kidney disease, in which we brought them into a summer camp. And the major intervention that we had on this summer camp was a dietary intervention. So what we did is we mostly use a plant-based diet, and we remove a few other things on this diet, which was gluten-free and dairy-free. And then we analyzed the immune system of these kids, at the beginning of the camp and at the end of the camp. We also look at the microbiota, the kidney function, and some other measurements such as protein in the urine. And I'll show you just one piece of evidence, which shows that, by just changing the diet, we have a 78% reduction in the pro-inflammatory cells of the immune system, which are called Th17 cells, when you compare day 0 to day 26, which was at the end of the camp, showing that, we, with changes in our diet, changes in lifestyle, we can have a major impact in the immune system. So to put things together, we know that diabetes is a major driver of kidney disease in the long term. And we also know that, this manifestation of kidney disease usually appears when in the urine you start leaking protein. And in the longer term, we start seeing changes in the blood tests that measures kidney function. What we know about why diabetes causes kidney disease, it seems that, the blood sugar control plays a crucial role. So the tighter you control your blood sugar, the less of a chance you're going to develop diabetes. And patients that have, greater swings in blood sugars, highs and lows, these are the patients that tend to have a much higher rate of developing kidney disease in the long term. Of course, the way to control your blood sugars involves, medications, insulin, but also your diet and exercise. So lifestyle interventions and diet plays a major role. And I'm showing you that, the diet not only plays a role in keeping the blood sugars under better control, avoid the swings, but the diet can also have a direct role in reducing the inflammation and reducing the immune activation. So diet can have a huge impact on all those variables. And if we focus on a healthy diet, this can have anti-inflammatory properties that go beyond medications. And it's really a complementary strategy whenever we're thinking about minimizing kidney disease and minimizing some of the immune activation that can happen with diabetes. And of course, this is supposed to be a dialogue. This is my research team, but I'm happy to answer some of the direct questions, and I'll invite Marissa to join us and kind of moderate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Riella. I really appreciate the information. I think it's really helpful. I think, too often it's just easy to go to the fast food as an option because, time is money, right? And we're all busy and we're all running around, but, everything we put into our body really does affect us. So I really appreciate the perspective. And if anyone wants to go ahead and submit questions, you can submit questions at any time through the Q&A feature or through the chat. You are welcome to also put them as anonymous if you are wanting to keep it an anonymous question. I think for me, I have a question. So for you, what has been the most sort of exciting part of getting into the research with your food on immunity?
Yeah, so I've been doing research for over 20 years, and we always are kind of looking for a potential drug that may control the immune system and may provide a benefit to our diabetes patients, our kidney patients, and so forth. And what we've been starting to realize, I think, in the past 5 years or so, is that sometimes a diet change can have a much greater impact than any medication, right? And of course, a diet change is not easy. And sometimes, for even physicians, prescribing a little pill that people will take on a daily basis, it's easier than, dive into the details of their routine and how are they able to actually, make changes into their lifestyle to introduce the diet that's maybe it is something that they don't eat on a daily basis. And I can give you, kind of practical examples, I think. So I think we start with, some of the first observations that show that people that bring food from home to their workplace tend to eat healthier, right? And that requires a lot of planning, and it's not easy to do. So I think, but we realize that unfortunately, not every place that we go to in cafeterias, and I can tell you about the hospital cafeteria, that all the unhealthy stuff is, right in front of us, like the fried stuff and so forth. They attract more, and of course they give this, immediate pleasure after you kind of eat it and so forth. But what is important about the diet and the changes that we make is that we have to try to incorporate something that is sustainable, over time. And some of the examples that we give to our patients is to do some batch cooking, right? In the sense that they kind of plan their week a little bit ahead, and they cook different meals, they freeze some of that, and they have that as a backup. And then we think about, okay, in between the meals, so how can we have healthy snacks? How can we incorporate things into our diet that are beneficial to your body, that make you feel well, and that ultimately, would actually have a huge impact in the long term. And diet is one of those, things that unfortunately it's not, if you do one day a week, that's going to work. You have to do the majority of days of the week, right? There will be exceptions. I have kids, and, we don't want to deprive them from, the opportunity of eating a French fries, eating a hamburger, and that's perfectly fine. I think moderation, I think is the key word here. But at the same time, I think we do need to kind of plan and strategize our meals and help, of course, our patients in some of that planning. And nutritionists are amazing in trying to dive into and put together your lifestyle, your routine, and see how we can incorporate some of the healthy, diet into our day-to-day basis. And it is much harder than taking a pill, I'll tell you, and it takes much more effort to be able to maintain some of the consistency around. But the research that we've done, going back to the research, is that we've seen such an impact of diet, especially when we measure the immune system directly, which was something that, it was done, very, I would say, very superficially by many studies. And now we are able to kind of dive into the very granular nature of your immune system. And it shows that, the impact can be, magnitude higher than any medication that I could provide to a patient. And the impact is not on one thing, it impacts so many other different aspects of our body that ultimately, you're not only affecting your immune system, you're affecting your mind, you're affecting how your cognition kind of works, your muscles, your energy. And so the potential impact and benefits of diet go even beyond, I think, just the immune system. And I think that was something that I was quite surprised. And also, it almost changed a little bit of my focus on the research, that instead of finding the perfect drug, that, there are patients that still need some medications, and that's perfectly fine. But we need to intervene on things that can have even a greater impact of our patients, even if they're hard to achieve. And I think diet is a clear example of that.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think we all as humans and adults in this area can say that dieting and being very restrictive, or, and making radical changes can be really difficult. And I think it's really wonderful that you were able to take this idea of how can we help people, and how can we do it in a way that affects a lot of different parts of our body, exactly like you said. And I think it's really exciting, because this is something that's not just helpful for diabetes, but for overall health. And, to me, I think that makes it beneficial for everyone. So I will, at this point, I would like to introduce Cátia and Rodolfo, who have helped sort of create a solution for those of us who especially are maybe not as good at meal prepping. My sister is a dietitian. She is excellent at meal prepping. I am a little bit slacking in that area. So I would like to I'll read Rodolfo's introduction first. So Rodolfo Coelho is the co-founder and CEO of Nutreat. And in his previous life as an executive, he worked for companies such as AB InBev, Burger King, and Kraft Heinz. He also led Able2, a healthcare startup that has been doing teletherapy way before the pandemic. And he loves to navigate the intersection of consumer goods, science, and people. He has seen big and small, local and global, logic and magic. And now he's using all of this to help evolve the food industry towards a healthier, more caring future. A retired surfer and still avid skier, he received his MBA from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, and he's married to Cátia, his lifelong partner, and they have 3 very cool kids. And now I'll read Cátia's as well. Cátia Coelho is the co-founder and chief innovation officer of Nutreat, responsible for R&D, new product development, and consumer advocacy. Cátia is the mastermind behind Nutreat. She spent the first decade of her professional life in the food and beverage industry, in addition to her career in healthcare. As a therapist, she witnessed firsthand the impact of nutrition in the care of her patients, either while treating patients with substance abuse and severe mental health issues, or strengthening children's brain development through protein-rich diet. This knowledge, coupled with her diabetes family history, led her to focus on effective ways to transform the food industry from a cause of chronic diseases such as diabetes and obesity to an ally in prevention and management of the same conditions. Cátia received her MS in mental health from the Nova Southeastern University and is a licensed psychologist in her native country, Brazil. Her 3 children were part of the creation of Nutreat, either taking notes, helping with prototyping and manufacturing, or simply as guinea pigs. She's married to Rodolfo, her partner at Nutreat, and enjoys balancing her busy life as an entrepreneur with morning jogs or reading a good book. And it's been so fun getting to know you too, so take it away.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I couldn't be more enthusiastic for having Dr. Riella as our advisor here at Nutreat. It's amazing to see how important nutrition is, and that's what we do. We try to bring preventive nutrition to everything we do. And as he was saying, it's really hard for us, humans, as he likes to put it, and you do, Marissa, really to, have the discipline of doing what's right in terms of our nutrition. So we try to make it simple, and that's what Nutreat is all about. If you can allow me to share my screen, there you go, great. Let's see. So the idea here today is just to, share a bit of what we've been, doing. And after everything that Dr. Riella talked in terms of the science, and we're grateful that he keeps us honest in our science. This is, a bit of where we are right now with Nutreat. So I'm going to go first with the easy part, which is, how do we eat Nutreat, what Nutreat looks like. So you can either, spread it on toast or eat it with fruits, but it's a sweet snack that will help satisfy your sweet cravings without, messing up with your blood sugar levels. So you can eat it on toast or with fruit or by the spoonful. Here at home, Cátia is the one that likes it really cold, so she puts it in the fridge, although it doesn't require refrigeration. She puts it in the fridge and eats it, really cold, especially now that we're here down in Florida. It certainly helps in those really warm days. I'm, on the other hand, I'm a big fan of, warming them up in the microwave for 15, 20 seconds. Your entire house will smell like brownies. So a bit of, what we how do we do it? So we call it delicious functionality, but in truth, and this is something that we developed with the input of Dr. Riella. There are three pillars to how Nutreat works with your body. The first one is that we have a low glycemic formulation that was developed over more than 2 years of research by Cátia and with the help of Cornell University, where we have our R&D facilities and also where we produce Nutreat. That helps, managing blood sugar and most importantly, staying in range within your BGL range for as long as you can. The second part of it is improving gut health. It's really important that you understand, the different areas where your gut will actually impact the different systems in your body, and we do that through prebiotic fibers. We have two very interesting sources of prebiotic fibers. One being green bananas, and that's the tricky part, getting green bananas to actually taste great and be, something yummy. That's where, the art meets science, and that's the beauty of what Cátia created. On the left side at the bottom, you'll see what Dr. Riella was talking about, preventing inflammation. We pack a serious amount of antioxidants from most of our ingredients. So, for instance, we use 100% pure cacao from Peru, which is an amazing source of antioxidants. Just like I was surprised to learn about it, but that's part of the research. Coconut also packs an interesting amount of antioxidants, and so does berries. We use 3 different types of berries to bring in a very robust blend in that area. When you look to the right of your screen, you'll see that, front and center, we put the low glycemic load that we have, and Cátia will talk a bit about that in the future, in the next slides. But all in all, I think it's important to understand that a lot of people now are talking about calories, and a lot of people are talking about carbs, but there's a different concept, which is the glycemic index, the glycemic load, that are very important, especially for people managing diabetes. So having said that, I talked a bit about prebiotic fiber, and it's interesting that most of the people are familiar with probiotics. Prebiotics, somewhat newer concept. So just to, clarify things, probiotics are, the certain types of bacteria you have in your gut. They are already there. You don't have to consume more. You have in your gut, you have what we call a microbiota, which is a blend of good and bad bacteria. And it's the balance between those two that it will actually determine how your gut works. They are key for, like I said, many functions in your body. And in terms of foods, they are present in yogurt, kimchi. There's a lot of supplements nowadays that have probiotics. The challenge with probiotics, as you can imagine, is that being a living organism, some of them actually die along the way, between the manufacturing, the transportation, warehousing, etc., and then, all the way to the point where you consume them and they get to your gut. So there's a lot of debate whether, that's truly effective or not. A lot of research is being done in this space right now. On the other side, what we call prebiotics, and this is regulated by the FDA, what you can call, a prebiotic or not. Unlike superfood, we use the word superfood, but we're more and more inclined to, leave it behind, because there's not a scientific definition to say what is or isn't a superfood. On the other hand, prebiotics, there is such a definition, and it's given to us by the FDA. So a prebiotic is a type of dietary fiber or resistant starch, that the latter one being what you find in green bananas, that will have three main characteristics. They are not digested until they reach your gut. Once there, they feed the probiotics, in other words, the good bacteria and not the bad bacteria. And then the third criteria to meet the FDA definition is they are a source of benefits to the human body, not just feeding the probiotics. So if you meet those three, you're not digested, you feed the good bacteria, and you create benefits for the human body, that's when the FDA allows you to call it a prebiotic. You find them in green bananas, artichokes, blue agave, which is the source that we use, and also on supplements. And talking a bit about supplements, there's an author, Michael Pollan, and he has a rule that we try to follow, which is eat food, mostly plants, not a lot. I think that's at the essence of what Dr. Riella was talking about as well. We, being Brazilians, we do love meat, we eat meat, but it's less and less over time, and we're seeing the benefits of that. So this is, a bit of, the difference between probiotics and prebiotics, which is at the core of one of our pillars, which is the gut health. Now to talk a bit about glycemic index and glycemic load, I'll turn it to Cátia while I drink some water.
Hello, everyone. I want to first thank you, Children with Diabetes, for this opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity from the bottom of my heart. This is unbelievable. And I want to thank Dr. Riella again. And so let me try to explain a little bit glycemic index and glycemic load. We all want to eat healthy. However, we noticed that there is a lot of buzz about carbs, but not necessarily in the right way. That's when the idea of using the low glycemic concept came up. So most of our consumers, they ask us the difference between glycemic index and glycemic load. To be quite honest, it's a bit complicated. So I was fascinated when I learned. And so I decided to share it with you. And so glycemic index is a measure of how quickly and how much a certain amount of carbs in a food will cause you your blood sugar to spike. So it's equivalent to a measure of quality of the carbs and the presence of micronutrients as well. Glycemic load is a measure of how much of a portion of a specific food will impact your blood sugar. So it takes into consideration the quality and quantity of available carbs in a food. It's a good way to guide our daily food decisions, I would say. So that's why we decided to show Nutreat glycemic load numbers in front and center in our lead. So here we brought a few graphics to illustrate. So on the left side, we have clinical trials conducted by INCIS that confirms no blood sugar spikes of Nutreat. So if you compare the green line, which is Nutreat, versus the red line, which is the standard glucose level, I would say, or portion, I would say. So you can see the difference when a person eats Nutreat compared to glucose, sugar, basically. So that's so you can understand the impact or the results or what happened with the blood sugar. So on the right side, we prepare something, we want to show you Nutreat compare with other sweet snacks. So we have on the very bottom Nutreat with the glycemic load of 2, compare with a medium glycemic snack, which is 16, and a high glycemic load snack, which is 35. So I think it's, you want to add something?
Yeah, no,
or-
this is pretty much the science behind Nutreat, and it took a while for us to get to this level. It's really, you know, the way we see it from our end. I want to finish by saying, you know, for us, it's amazing to be able to be, you know, connected with children with diabetes. I think we were talking earlier with Marissa and Dr. Riella. A lot of what we can accomplish nowadays in terms of our healthcare system, and we all know, you know, the issues there, has to be done through prevention. And there are 3 pillars that we consider when we talk about that. It's nutrition, it's physical activity, exercising, and the third one is mental health. It's really important that we achieve a balance in all those 3 dimensions, and hopefully, you know, we'll be able to help a bit in terms of what exactly, you know, we put into our body. And the more we study, the more we research, the more we see the importance of what Dr. Riella was saying, not only for immunity, but for so many other systems and functions in your body. I think it's part of what we do, part of why, you know, after having long careers in the food industry, we decided to take this route and really do something that is meaningful to us, to our family. Marissa was mentioning, you know, we have our fair share of health issues, and diabetes is a big one, unfortunately. We see a lot of allergies. We see a lot of issues with our kids. We have 3 kids, like Marissa was saying. I think that informed, you know, where we are here. I think that's pretty much what we wanted to share with you, and happy to take questions together with Dr. Riella. I think it's important to, you know, educate as much as we can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I think, you know, coming from another company that was started based on a family experience, I think it's always good to have sort of skin in the game, because it makes you more driven. It makes you, you know, very determined to really help make a difference. And, you know, what a pleasure it is to be able to work, you know, devoting your time to really helping other people. It's just great. So I wrote down a couple of questions while you guys were talking. So I think the prebiotic versus probiotic stuff is really, really interesting to me. And I guess my question there is, like, how did you decide to focus on prebiotics versus probiotics?
Early on, we had, so going back, you know, from the very beginning, we were living in Australia, and Australia is truly paradise when it comes to nutrition and food in general. I was there as an executive. Cátia was there with us and our family, and actually she couldn't work because of license issues. So she said, you know, I'm going to devote my time to doing more research into nutrition. And that's how she came across the concept of prebiotics. And when you equate prebiotics and you look at, you know, the average American diet, there's a lot of people talking about protein, and there's protein shakes, there's protein powder, there's protein everything. When in reality, the average American doesn't need more protein. We all eat enough protein. Except for, you know, rare, you know, cases. But what we do lack is fiber. And it's amazing. The gap is really big. So she decided to focus into fiber because when you have fiber present in a meal, it slows down the absorption of carbs. So even if you have bad, lousy carbs, the fact that you have, a combination of fat, fiber, and protein will help slow down the rise of your blood sugar. So that's, part of how it came to be. The other thing was actually probiotics, the part of the probiotics. We had an advisor earlier, a mentor that was the head of Danone in the US, and then he was later head of worldwide plant-based products for Danone. And he was like, when he saw the product and he saw the ingredients, he was like, you guys are in the right track, because I've been working my life to make, probiotics work into our products. And this is the right way to do it, because you don't have to put more probiotics into your body. They are there. If you take good care of them, they will outweigh, the bad bacteria, and that's how you get to a healthy gut. So in a nutshell, that's how we got there.
That's awesome. I think it's interesting because we get so we're targeted by marketing, and people, we've all heard about, get your probiotics, and it sounds great, but then, when we were talking last week and you guys had mentioned that, oh, well, if you don't feed them properly, they're not going to do anything. I was like, well, this would have been good to know. So I'm really glad that this is something, sounds like it would be common sense, but it also seems like you guys you're ahead of the game, and you're really cutting edge with this product that you have developed. So I think congratulations, and that's amazing. Dr. Riella, did you want to add to the prebiotic?
I was just going to say that, not only all of us, I think all of us get confused with the probiotic and prebiotic. And I think with the probiotic, what has been confusing is like, okay, what is good, mix of bacteria for us to take. And this has been like a struggle, and nobody actually knows. But I think what we learned is exactly, I think what Rodolfo was saying, is that we know that even if you start eating a lot of good yogurt and so forth, if your rest of your diet is crap, these bacteria won't stay. The bacteria needs all the right nutrients to stay alive, and in order to basically provide to the good bacteria the nutrients that they need, the prebiotics makes so much more sense. And so I think the idea of kind of going back, instead of just given the whole thing, going back to the reasoning why sometimes our own bacteria kind of change over time. And in our study that we did with the kids, we can clearly see when they first came into the camp, how their bacteria was in their gut, and then when they finished the camp, what had happened. And we saw much greater diversity, so many more bacteria are growing. And then if you look at some of what we believe are good and bad bacteria, there was an expansion of the good bacteria. So all that provided by, more plant-based, more greater fibers and so forth that are incorporated into the diet, and less of those, ingredients or foods that can cause spiking blood sugars that don't have the quality food, carbs that Cátia was mentioning, the ones that, have a lower glycemic index. And I think this is what, in the end, would be most impactful for our body.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as all of you have mentioned, I think it's really helpful for prevention, but also as someone living with diabetes, I think it's very helpful to have something available that, first of all, satisfies the sweet craving, because a lot of us have those. And to have something that doesn't cause a huge spike, because, when I decide, or maybe my husband, I'll blame him, he's not here, when he brings home Oreos, I'm going to eat them. I just know, it's otherwise we end up, wanting things, and, like you said, everything in moderation, but it becomes less enjoyable to eat things like that when you have like high blood sugars for hours afterwards, right? And, the insulin that we take and the systems that we use are helpful, but, it's not a perfect system by any means. So I really appreciate that this is something that is both helpful for prevention, but also for those of us living with diabetes.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we were talking about earlier too, and we discussed at length in Orlando at Friends for Life, is the importance of time and range. And having those spikes, even if you bolus for your Oreos, or you are overusing something that should be used sparingly. You should have your basal, and then you should be complementing every now and then. But if you have options that are available, and it's not hard if you think about the three groups that we talked about, the macronutrients, good fat, because then again, not all fat is created equal. If you go for good fat, which we selected MCT to have in our products, and you have a source of protein, and you have fiber, you can have some, bad carbs along the way, and it won't spike as much. I think, knowing your food is crucial, and that's part of what we've been working towards in her research.
Our research. It's a teamwork.
Yeah, could you explain what MCT is? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so we have different types of fat. We have saturated, unsaturated, which is poly or mono unsaturated. And within saturated, you also have a division based on the length of the molecule of the fat. A lot of the bad fat is from animal sources,
right?
And that's a bigger chain of a molecule. MCT stands for middle chain triglycerides, which is a smaller molecule of fat that actually has really interesting properties because of its smaller size. It can permeate into special parts of your body that will actually function differently. The other part of it, which I find very interesting, is that MCT will give you, steady, low burning energy over time, which can, functions as a source of energy over a longer period of time, instead of spiking, your blood sugar, because it's, it takes longer to digest. It actually helps you stay in range for longer as well.
Okay, and would you mind actually going through the list of ingredients? Because it's a small list.
Yeah. So our base is green bananas, which Cátia, works her magic to turn into something actually delicious. Because if you ever eaten a really, really green banana,
don't try it.
It's not gonna, anyway, that's no good there. We also use coconut cream, which is our source of MCT and also antioxidants. The other we use is blue agave organic inulin. Inulin is prebiotic fiber, and it's a very, in this case, being a longer molecule helps. So it's a type of fiber that is found in the same plant used to make tequila. Just a fun fact. But we keep the the good part of it, which is the inulin. We also use organic erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol known for not having adverse side effects. A lot of the other sugar alcohols like maltitol, xylitol, they actually create some, I'll call it just weird, issues and with your gut. So we had, to find actually the right one that will not have side effects. Then we blend that with monk fruit, organic monk fruit, which is a very potent sweetener. Comes from New Zealand and the mountains in China. Cátia also found that one while we were living in Australia. In New Zealand, she found a really amazing source for organic monk fruit. We also use, like I said, 100% Peruvian organic chocolate. We use whole berries, organic berries. Blueberries is the most common one, raspberries as well. And then we have our very special guest, we call her, the queen of berries, maqui berry, grows in Chile mostly, has such an amazing amount of antioxidants. It's not even funny, I mean, to compare. And it also brings a tartness to our berries Nutreat that is very interesting. On the coconut one, we also use a ton of shredded coconut, which is really, for us, it brings, memories of childhood, eating, coconut sweets. You can munch on the shredded coconut. It's really amazing. We use great vanilla from a company. We love the name of our supplier of vanilla. It's called Singing Dog. But it's the best vanilla out there, and it has no alcohol because we process our Nutreat so little that if we had the extract with alcohol, you could feel it in the final product. So we went through a lot to find the right vanilla. So every single ingredient in there has gone through extensive research, validation with scientific peer-reviewed papers, but that's pretty much it. We don't use a lot more. That's it.
No, and I think that's something that, to me is really attractive about this, because so often, I'm going to the grocery store, right? And I'm trying to find something, let's say for breakfast, that won't spike my blood sugar, because breakfast tends to be, one of the harder times with the cortisol rising in the morning. And I read what the ingredients are on, protein bars and granola bars. And there are many things I cannot pronounce. And, I just don't want to put a lot of that stuff into my body because I don't know what it is. And I just think it's really incredible that you're able to list all of these things that are all very pronounceable. Like the one thing that's like different is the sugar alcohol, but even then you did your research and chose the one that doesn't have as much of the laxative effect that some of the other sugar alcohols can have.
That's true. And the other thing is a lot of the products for people managing diabetes, I won't mention brand names, but the leading brands out there, you read their ingredient list. Number one, I'm not a native English speaker, so for me, it's even harder to pronounce those things. But then it's an entire paragraph.
Yes.
And they have to print it with this really tiny font because it doesn't, really fit. Our ingredients are all, front and center on our lid. Big font, you can read it, it's organic, and that's it.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to try the coconut one over at Friends for Life this summer, and it was so good. And it legitimately tastes like the inside of an Almond Joy, like if you've ever had that candy. And I love coconut, so I really also enjoyed the texture with the coconut, even though I didn't grow up eating coconut by any means.
My favorite berries because of the amount of fiber. So I really like, of course, the taste, but
Yeah.
I cannot tell, I'm suspect to tell, but the amount of fibers for me, and because it has flaxseed as well, which is
great.
Forgot to mention that wonder. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It makes some magic for me as well. So I really like berries.
And like you said, when you tried the coconut one, you felt it. I have to admit, this was part of our strategy to have Dr. Riella on board with us. When I think, we talked about the product, etc. But when he tried it, was the part when he said, "I'm in."
That's awesome.
It was really good. I have to say.
Yeah, I know. I have to try the berry one now. I'm excited. They were like going like hotcakes, so I didn't want to take too many because I wanted to let other people try it.
I think I'm gonna like it, but I want to
I'll
hear
let you know.
your feedback. Yeah, later on.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, there was a question from one of the participants, and it's a little bit maybe not, specific for you guys, but I would like to address it just because I don't want to miss it. So the question was, how many carbs should be allowed at each meal, and snacks mid-morning and after noon and at night for someone with type 1 diabetes. And typically it depends on what your goals are. For adults, if you're looking to for a weight management perspective, what typically diabetes educators will give you as a recommendation for women, for weight loss, you'll want to have between 30 to 45 grams of carbs, but really you can go up to, from 45 to 60 grams if you're not looking for a weight loss perspective. But anything, it's really everything in moderation. And I personally recommend the plate method, which you can find on myplate.gov. And it's just half of your plate of non-starchy vegetables, a quarter protein, and a quarter carbohydrate. And of course, the carbohydrates ideally are whole grain with fiber as well. And, again, you have to find something that's sustainable for you and doable. And, having a snack in between meals like Nutreat, or like something like a handful of nuts, something that is just, easy but low glycemic load can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add is, and there's a lot of confusion, and we've been, hearing from our consumers, and we talk to them about this. Not all carbs are created equal. The FDA bundles everything up under one rubric, but the truth is you have to be mindful of what carbs are digestible. So in our case, and any other food out there, fibers don't count into your carbs that you want to control. Also, sugar alcohol, especially erythritol, it's non-caloric and also non-digestible, so it will be excreted through your urine at the end of the day, thanks to Dr. Riella's amazing kidney functionality. I think that's part of what we want to be mindful as well as we build our diet.
Yeah, and typically, so for people with diabetes, what we tend to recommend if you're taking insulin for carbohydrates, if their food has more than 5 grams of fiber, you can subtract half of the fiber from the carb portion that you're going to take insulin for. And sugar alcohols you can take out entirely because, as Rodolfo said, they're not even absorbed. It does not really count toward the carbohydrates that you need to take insulin for. And then there's another question in the chat, which is there any way to get samples?
Aha. So we are huge fans of children with diabetes. So we, for those, live here on the chat, if you can, facilitate, Marissa, we're happy to send, our sample pack to them. And, again, the only thing I'd ask in return is please tell us, how do you like the product? Which one is your favorite flavor? We're always curious to hear from our consumers.
That sounds great. And so I'll just ask for an email address and hopefully we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, this was really fabulous and really fun. Thank you all so much for all of your insight, for all of your passion and your energy. And, we're really happy to have you as at CWD.
Thank you very much for the
so
opportunity. It was great sharing this time with you guys and with Dr. Riella. Couldn't be, happier for, the hour we just spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you all.
Yes, thank you all for joining, and please check out nutreat.com, and you can also check out cwd.is/community for more upcoming events, screenside chats, and future Masterpiece product theaters. All right, good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Obrigada.
There you go.
It's my one word. Thank
That's a
you
great
guys
one.
so much.
Bye.
Bye.